Hi everybody, this is Father Warner D'Souza. Today we are going to look at the text of Luke chapter 17, verses 7 to 10. Throughout the Gospel of Luke, Jesus has repeatedly been critical of the witness and the teachings of the Pharisees. There was a duplicity in the way they lived, and he often condemned them as false spiritual shepherds, leading people astray while abusing their power. Jesus now turns to his disciples as he does to all of us today. He speaks to what a true servant of God must understand. The pericope of today must be read in its entirety, starting from verse 1. The reality, as Jesus lays out for us, is that we are all tempted as leaders and prone to stumbling, scandal in Greek. But woe to the leader who does stumble and causes others to do the same. Jesus calls the Christian disciple to pay attention to oneself, but then there is also a shared responsibility for one another. Hence the call to pay attention to the moral life of all the members of the community while consistently finding it in one's heart to forgive 7 times a day. It is no wonder that such a tall order made the disciples feel overwhelmed, asking the Lord to increase their faith. They ask for more faith, just as we do. Yet Jesus does not offer help, at least not of the kind that the apostles seek. The Greek syntax of chapter 17 verse 6 implies a criticism of the apostles. Jesus scolds them for lacking faith even the size of a mustard seed. Jesus tells them that they didn't need more faith. They simply had to be able to tap into the faith they already had. They simply needed to put that faith to work. To this, Jesus attaches a parable, which is the pericope of today's gospel passage. The parable is about a master and his slave. It becomes evident that while the master had a slave, this was still a small household, for the slave doubles up as a farm help as well as one who looks and takes care of the household. Slavery was an accepted part of most ancient cultures, and Jesus' listeners would easily understand the point he is making here. In the modern world, we have rejected slavery and see it as unjust. So to apply this model as Jesus does to the relationship between God and ourselves is likely to make us very uneasy. Remember that Luke loves to contrast people and incidents. At the background, he has the behavior of the Pharisees, while in the foreground, there is a lesson for the Christian leader who perhaps was now expecting a reward for his service. Perhaps Luke's community had run into some leaders who looked at their service as something that should be rewarded. The Pharisees had come to believe that they were entitled. The parable highlights the reality that we are all servants, and as servants the master owes us nothing. God in the same way owes us nothing. Perhaps the Pharisees and now the Christian leader sought for his service a reward of power and position. Power and position are often seen as a privilege. Jesus didn't simply redistribute power, he redefined it. Those who lead are those who serve. The essence of the parable is found in verse 9 and 10. The slave who only carries out his master's orders has not earned any right to his thanks. Hence, the parable was meant to be a huge dose of realism that saves us from conceit, even of the spiritual type. There is a difference between serving God and being a servant of God. The way of Jesus suggests that serving others is a privilege in itself and no reward is necessary. That is why the parable uses the word slave. The reader may ask, why did Jesus not speak against slavery by using a different term? That would have diluted the message of the parable entirely. But some may ask, what about my rights? If we are working for God, then what's so wrong to expect some special rights? This was certainly what the religious leaders had also come to assume. Whatever we do for Christ is no more than what is our duty to do. We are duty bound to serve Him by that first and great commandment of loving God with all our hearts and soul. Our works are not grounds for any reward in this life. In this life, we receive grace and goodness from God, not rewards. So what do we learn? Some of us need to face the fact that we are more like volunteers for God, and that He may even be lucky to have us. The word servant or slave is found in one form or the other almost 1,000 times in the Bible. That means it's a very big deal to God and should be to us as well, lest we forget our role in the church. When St. Paul wrote to the epistles, he was clear of his fundamental identity, as we see in Romans chapter 1 verse 1. He says, I, Paul, a servant of Christ Jesus. He tells us who he is, his name, and then what he is, a servant. Yet at the Last Supper, our God did what no reasonable master would do. He put on his apron and washed the feet of his disciples. He then told them that he did this so that they could do likewise to one another. I want to thank you for being part of these daily reflections. Please do subscribe to this channel if you haven't done it, and share this via WhatsApp and other social media with your friends. Remember, it takes us a lot of time to put this together, and we look forward to your help in the cause of evangelization. God bless you.